Hey visionaries, welcome back to the Your Biggest Vision Show. I'm your host, Leah, and we have a real treat today. We have Sara Anna Powers, who is a success coach. She is an incredible copywriter. She helps entrepreneurs with their success in copywriting. She is the host of the Faith Forward online business podcast, and she is just one of the sweetest people I have met in my entrepreneurial journey. I just always light up when I see anything from here or chat with her. She's just one of those people that you just want to hear from. So thanks for being here, Sara Anna.
Oh, thank you so much, Leah. I feel the same about you. And I was so excited to connect with you for this interview. And I'm super stoked to see where we're going to go with it.
I know part of me is like, I want to interview her on my podcast. I just want to talk to her. And we're both so busy, but I don't know when that's going to happen. So it's going to happen now. Yeah. So you are a success coach. You are an expert copywriter. You work with entrepreneurs. Is there anything else you want to add to what you really do right now before we go into your evolution?
Yeah, I've brought in speaking a lot. And last year at the end of the year, I said, 2019 is going to be the year that we bring in speaking, because I feel like speaking allows you to reach so many people with a message that has the opportunity to motivate them into action. So it may not be the talk that transforms them, but the talk can plant a seed that then inspires them to take some action that's a longer term action that transforms them. So that's the only other thing I would add, is that that's something I've hosted a few live events and am, excited to be speaking on other people's stages as well.
Great. Congratulations. I'm sure that you are incredibly inspirational.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's a no-brainer. So you live in Mississippi, is that right?
Yeah,
Mississippi. Are you from Mississippi?
I am, yes. Okay. And honestly, never expected to be back here. Not that I don't love the state. And in fact, I love Mississippi. We have, you're so kind to say I'm sweet. I think that's just, we are like a hospitable state. Like, we're literally called the hospitality state. And I took a few years off of school after undergrad. I worked for a few years and then I went back to law school, which meant that I came out of law school in 2009, which was one of the worst years you could possibly come out of law school, especially in a state like Mississippi. And I got a really great offer to work at a firm in Mississippi. So I was like, well, I never expected to be back here. But like, the amount of money that they offered me, at the time, I was like staggered. I was like, wait, what? And so there was no way I felt that I could turn that down. And that was the only offer I got. So I thought, right. Mississippi it is.
Mississippi it is. It's so funny you say that. I was one of my girlfriends from high school went to Ole Miss, and she got married a few years ago, and I was in her wedding, and my then boyfriend, now fiance, and I were down there, and we were walking, we were like at the liquor store getting groceries, and everyone was like waving at us, and we were like, what do they want? Like, we're so cynical from New York. We're like, why is everyone looking at us? Why are they smiling? Do they want something from me?
That is so funny, because I was just this past week, I was in Laguna and the Newport area, and in Laguna Beach, one of my mentors is James Wedmore, and he had hosted an event at this place called, I think it's called 714, and it's just down the street from the Pacific Edge. And so when we had our inner circle retreat, we met at this like really cool little like space. And I was just like walking down the street, and I look in and I see a girl like, setting up for an event or something. And it just came out of me naturally. I just wave and smile, and she gave me this look like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with you?
She's like, coming to kill me.
Honestly. I was like, oh wait, people don't do that here. Just like, hey, stranger.
Oh, that is so funny.
That's awesome.
So when you were growing up, did you want to be a lawyer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because of Claire Huxtable on the Cosby Show.
That is so funny. I wanted to be a lawyer because of To Kill a Mockingbird.
That's a better answer.
Not really. I'm pretty sure that's like every law school admissions answer. They're like, ever since I read To Kill a Mockingbird, so like me and thousands of other people. But yeah, so you wanted to be Claire Huxtable?
Yeah, but cool story about To Kill a Mockingbird, actually random. This is how the South works. So Harper Lee is from Monroeville, Alabama, and my aunt, my dad's sister, married a guy who's from Monroeville. So like they have run into the family, like, and it's so cool. Like, I happened to end up with a signed copy.
Wow.
Yes. And then I had organizers come into my home, and like I was on a trip, and they came and they organized. And I came back, I was like, where is the fund To Kill a Mockingbird?
My jewelry or my passport, where is?
Where's about the rings? Where's the book. I found it. But yeah. So my story about wanting to be a lawyer, Claire Huxtable, the Cosby Show was such an iconic show. I was born in 1980. And so that was like the family show. And I just loved that. She was smart. She was funny. She seemed like she didn't work very much and they had plenty of money. I mean, then I got into law and I was like, oh, it's not like that at all.
That is a TV show.
Yeah. I mean, go figure.
Yeah. Okay. So, but you go to law school and you think that that's what you're going to be, and then you end up being it. And then personally, you have when did your personal struggles start along the way, which started ending up eventually informing what you do now?
Yeah. So honestly, Leah, very quickly into my first law job. Oh my gosh. I'm going to tell you such a funny story that I don't think I've ever shared publicly. So this is a nugget.
Juicy.
But I could tell very quickly it wasn't a career that I felt like it didn't light me up at all. Mm-hmm. Like I love people. I love doing stuff like this, just chatting with people, getting to know people. I love traveling. Part of the reason I love travel is that you're exposed to a whole new group of people and you get to see how people live and interact with people that aren't on your day-to-day path. So to put me into an office and say, okay, shut the door and you're going to look up cases and you're going to write briefs for 12 hours a day. And then you're going to go home to your cat, but I mean, that's literally like I had very little human contact because my partners at the time did not, I was just the first year, right? So they're not going to let you talk to the clients because they're like, right. You're going to screw something up, understandably.
Right.
So you really didn't get any, somebody joked when I said, you didn't get any human interaction. And I did work with people, but literally I was just sitting in my office with the door closed for most of the day. Okay, the nugget that I was going to share is this is how you listen to your intuition and your gut. And I do believe everything happens for a reason. And I'm so happy that my path was my path because it absolutely had to happen to bring me to this place. So I don't regret it or feel like, oh, that was a wasted, those years were wasted or, oh, I did the wrong thing at all. Like it was the perfect path for me. And I really want people to hear that and to think about their own situations like that. Cause you can take anywhere you're at and have it be a stepping stone for where you are going to be. And I really believe that's the way that life works. But I remember sitting in a hotel room. I had taken 2 days to go to the Coldplay concert, the Viva La Vida tour. It was in Cleveland, Ohio. I had flown up there. This was, I guess, my senior year of law school. That would have been when I was getting the offers. Maybe the end of 2008, beginning of 2009, probably beginning of 2009. And this firm that I had interviewed with, the one that ended up giving me this great offer, this partner sent me this message and he said, I had clerked with them for a week or two over Christmas, over the Christmas break. I had spent some time in the office, writing briefs, kind of just as a trial. And they loved my work. He said, ordinarily, we only take people in the top 10% of the class, but perhaps we can get your undergrad transcripts to make up for your deficiencies.
Oh my God.
I remember reading that word deficiency, just ringing through my ears. And I remember how it hit me. And I thought, nobody in my life has ever called me deficient. Keep in mind, I went to a very nice private school. I was a valedictorian. I graduated with 104. I then had a double major because of AP classes, right? They weight it. So you end up with more than 100. Because people were like, how does that work? I had a double major, English and French. I'm in undergrad, and I had a 4.0 there. I'm a member of Mensa. So I was deficiency. But in law school, when I started law school, I was just coming out of the tail end of really a year where I was depressed. I had struggled with anorexia in college from age 19 to 23. I went to treatment, kind of got that under control. But then around 2005, I went the whole other way, which was the year before I started law school. So I did end up, my first semester of law school, I had a 2.53. I had to have a 2.5 to keep my scholarship. I was like, shoo. And then from there on out, I had a 3.5 to 4.0, but that first semester was so low. I ended up graduating 0.02 away from graduating with honors. And I think it was just the fact that, he didn't know my life. I was like, honestly, that first year, I was doing awesome to get myself to class.
Right. That alone was your accomplishment.
I mean, for context, I'm 5'7", and I had binge eaten my way from like 140 in the middle of in like the summer of 2005 to like 220 by February of 2006.
Wow.
To give you context, and that doesn't happen outside of like some serious emotional stuff.
Right. That's not just like, I didn't work out for a few months.
Right. That's far beyond like, oops, forgot to go to the gym.
Right. Right. Oh my God. And so this is a very personal question, and it's up to you if you wanted to answer it or not. But like, when you got that kind of email and when you started as a first year, did that trigger like any eating issues? Because I would imagine that would feel hugely like you were out of control of your own life at that point.
That's a great question, but it actually didn't trigger any eating stuff, because the eating stuff, really, I hate to even say getting that under control, because that's not really what happened. For me, it was I'm a Jesus follower. I love the Lord. And it was a spiritual shift that I had in the spring of 2006, where I remember looking in the mirror and I saw my face was so like inflated. Like I hardly recognized myself, but it was really like the voice of the Holy Spirit was like, you're still you, and God loves you. And he's not mad at you for like having binge eaten the donuts and the pizza and all the stuff, but he doesn't want you to hurt. And so you can choose to see yourself how God sees you and to love yourself. Like you can choose to treat yourself with love and kindness. And I know it sounds so ridiculous. Like what? You just looked in the mirror and it just shifted. But that is actually what happened. It was a moment where I just felt God speak into my life, like love and comfort and assurance. And it had always been my biggest fear. Like what? Like I used to pray when I was anorexic. I would pray like, dear Lord, please bless my family. And also please don't let me get fat. I'm not even kidding. Like it's sickening to think about it, but that's where I was, and that was a prayer. Like, please don't let me get fat. And then I got fat.
Right.
And then I realized like, but I'm still me.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, my heart truly goes out to you. I was a ballerina growing up and have seen firsthand how dark some of those places can be. And thank you for sharing that with us. But I feel like that revelation has probably made you such a better entrepreneur, because so many of us get wrapped up in, well, what happens if I fail? What happens if I don't make back this investment? What happens if no one likes me? And you're like, I've been there. I know what it's like to become your greatest fear. And I still know that my relationship with God doesn't falter. So do you feel like that has carried over into your life now?
Yes, absolutely. And I felt it in different ways. When I lived in France, I took this trip to Barcelona and everything I had got stolen, like wallet, keys, passport. And I had remembered thinking, oh, that would be the worst thing. And then it happened. And then you realize it's not the worst thing. And I think having had a few of those experiences, you don't have to fear. You can walk forward in the faith, and you hear the phrase faith over fear. But it's true that faith and fear really can't coexist. And from a spiritual perspective, I think fear, like the kind of fear that most of us experience, like I'm scared I won't make this investment back, or what if no one joins this program, that is not coming from a place of light, right? That is coming from a place of darkness, because if you are living in that fear, you're actually going to act differently, and you're going to bring the fear into reality.
Right. Because
if you approach a launch from, what if nobody buys, you have this whole different energy around it, and people will pick up on that. Like energy is everything. People will pick up on that. People won't buy. And then guess what? Your fear came true.
Right. You proved yourself right, which is not really what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
I could talk to you about that kind of stuff for forever. But before we get into business, I do want to go back to your story a little bit. So you get this job at this law firm right away. You're sort of like, they called me deficient, sweet, or joining the firm. And right away, it's kind of not for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you do? When do you take action? Actually, I know the kind of end of this story, but I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah. Well, actually, so that was my first law job. So here's what happened. That first year and a half at that first job, I worked my tail off. I worked every Saturday. I worked most Sundays. I took 3 days off in the year, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and one of the Monday holidays. I missed my grandfather's funeral because I felt that I couldn't be away for the funeral and to be by his bedside as he passed. So I chose to fly up and be with him as he passed, but then I had been gone. I had missed a day of work, and I thought, I can't miss 2 more and stay for the funeral. So back I flew. And then about a year and a half into practice, I had a knock on the door at the end of the day. Hey, Anna, we love having you here. We'd love to keep you, but we've had a downturn in business and we're going to have to let you go. We're so sorry. We'll give you a month's severance, and you're welcome to use the office for the next month to look for, your next position. And thank you.
A good one. Oh my God. Were you stunned?
Stunned primarily because that happened. I remember the date. It was March the 1st, 2011. Yeah, 2011. I was stunned because in the fall, I could see that the work was decreasing. And as a first year, it's really not your responsibility to go out and get new clients. Most clients are not going to sign on with a first year attorney. It's the partner's job. And I feel like that even sounds blamey, like it was their job. But
no, it's the role of the office.
Yeah. That's the way a law firm works. Yeah. Like the partners and the senior associates, they network, they bring in the business. And then the associates, that's literally your title. You are an associate. You are there to support. And I could see, wow, like there's not enough work to do. And I kept a paper trail of all the emails. I would send an email to 2/3 of the partners individually, like, hey, I'm available. Do you have anything for me to work on? And I was concerned because in law, you've got to have billable hours. And so if you don't have enough work, you can't meet your requirements. But again, you only have the work that the partners have brought in. Right. And so I actually had gone to the managing partner in the fall before I got let go and had said, hey, like, I'm concerned. Is there, should I be worried? Should I be looking? Because doesn't seem to be enough work for me to be able to meet my hours. And I'm asking everybody and nobody has work to give me. And he said, we have made a commitment to you. You're the future of the firm, and you don't need to be worried. You were brought here for a reason. We're committed to you. Well, what happened was then that managing partner went out of power and a new one came in who was just much more like, and so again, this is secondhand, but what I was told is it was just a very fast, non-emotional kind of decision. And there you go. And it wasn't just me, actually. One of my good friends was also let go. And I remember going down the hall to another of my good friends, and he said, oh my gosh, did you hear that so-and-so was just let go? And I was like, no, but I was too. And the look on my friend's face who didn't get let go was like, oh, what's happening?
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. So you don't have your law job. You don't have the job that you've invested 2 years of every day of your life doing. What does your life look like then, internally and externally?
Well, there I got real scared, Leah, because I think I had about $8,000 on credit cards because I had purchased a house when I moved to Mississippi, and I had done that. I was engaged at the time, and so we were planning on, he never paid anything for the house, but like we bought, like in my name with my money.
Oh God.
We bought a family house, and so I knew, like, when that broke off, which was definitely for the best, I knew, well, I can still afford to make these payments, but I honestly never would have bought the house that I bought if I had for myself. I would have gotten something much, much different. Right. So then everything broke the second year that I lived in the house, everything. And this is what, owning a home is a beautiful thing, and I love it. And it's upkeep. So there was like a new air conditioning. Well, the air conditioning broke later. I take that back. But there was like the stove and the air vents. Like we had to do some work on the ducts, the electric, major plumbing issues, like separated pipes from trees. Trees had to be cut down. Anyways, it was a whole ordeal. So I had savings when I moved into the house, but I put them all into repairing the house. And so I had gradually, making these bigger payments, house payments than I had planned on making by myself, had gradually like gotten myself into a place where I was just like using credit to kind of get by. All of a sudden I have like $8,000 on credit cards, 1 month of severance. And I think my take home was somewhere around like 5,000
right
a month. And I just was panicked. But again, it's like, well, this is a situation. So, okay. So I literally went to a networking lunch the day after I got let go.
Wow.
I had already planned on going just to meet other women lawyers. And I said, okay, well, I'm not going to sit and grovel. I was teaching yoga at the time. I taught yoga for 13 years. My mom is a yoga teacher. And so I had an RYT 200 license. And I contacted all the places where I had taught. I said, I'm free, I'm available. So I started adding yoga classes to my schedule. I was teaching Zumba. I started, went from like 1 class a week to like 4, so I just hit the ground running and talked to anybody that I thought would have a contact or an in. And through my work with Rotary International, because I was a Rotary scholar from 2002 to 2003, that's how I got to live in Switzerland for a year. And I had joined the local Rotary Club, and there were several attorneys there. I got connected with the next firm that I ended up going to. And honestly, it was such a better fit for me. And I got that new job in 2 months. And so I was able to make it through that with that severance, and then, getting the next job lined up, plus the aerobics wasn't a ton of money, but it was enough to kind of like float me and get me by. It was
wow.
such a gift. Yeah. And then when I got to the new firm, I thought, oh my goodness, I didn't know how horrible the other one was.
Right. So then you maybe had a moment where you're like, oh, maybe I could be a lawyer, just not a lawyer there.
Yeah. Well, you only know what you know. And that,
right.
and I really don't want to sound like I'm knocking that first firm. I feel like it really sounds like I am, because again, that was my perfect path. And everything that happened there, like, I learned so many lessons there. And I learned a huge lesson I learned is in corporate, it doesn't matter if you work your tail off, and hard work does not always equal success, because in the end, with a company like that, it really is about the bottom line. I don't think it was personal. Nobody there had some vendetta against me or had some like ill personal feelings. There was nothing personal about it. It was just, okay, here's the numbers,
right. The business. Yeah.
Who makes the most sense. And I get that logically, but I think I was raised, and my parents were definitely raised in if you do your job, you show up, you have a good attitude, you work hard, you'll get rewarded.
Right.
And the world just doesn't work that way anymore. And it was very, very good for me to learn that in the beginning, because I was able to see and forecast in my later law jobs, like, ooh, okay, I see, because I had 2 more legal jobs after that. And the second one, I was there for 5 years. It was an amazing firm. They get Fortune 100 best places to work pretty much every year. Really, really talented people. I was given a lot of responsibility and really enjoyed the practice there. And I did mortgage servicing work. So that's a cyclical trend. And we had a ton of work due to the crash in 2008. But because of that experience that I had with the first firm, I knew like this isn't going to last forever. Mm-hmm. And I was able to have my eyes open, keep my eyes open. And I actually left that firm to go practice with a small, like boutique family owned construction law firm, because I could see this work is starting to trickle down.
I know how this goes.
I know what's coming next.
Yeah.
And I was a staff attorney there. I wasn't an associate. So they had even less, reason to be loyal to me than the first firm. And I thought, okay. And the crazy thing is, very few people that I worked with on the kind of work that I did are still there. Like really, I think within a year of me leaving, lots of them either got let go or left to do something else.
Sure. Wow.
And it was just great to learn that lesson early. So
right.
It wasn't, frankly, I'd rather learn the lessons earlier and be able to use them in life than I'd rather be 30 learning that lesson than 35 learning that lesson, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, it sounds like you learned a lot earlier in your career from everything you went through with your health experience, and then everything you went through with your mental health, and then what did and didn't work at being at a law firm, what didn't work in a relationship, being a homeowner. Like, my goodness. I'm, as you know, getting married in a few weeks, and Adam and I, we don't own our apartment in New York because no one does, because it's New York. We don't have a car because it's New York. We're sort of like, are we even adults? Like, do we actually have responsibilities? Because we don't really own anything. You really experienced a lot of that early on.
Yeah. Well, and again, we were chatting, I know before we started recording, just about the differences. I mean, it's a whole different world, like Mississippi real estate versus New York.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's very, very hard to make sense of buying here, which is just,
yeah,
it is what it is. You know, it's for better or worse, but it also just doesn't make, without getting on a tangent, as much economic sense here as it does other places, because your co-op fees and tax real estate fees are often higher than your mortgage. And so you think that you're like investing in your own property, but a lot of times you end up having fees that are just,
it's like double. You're paying your mortgage and you're paying rent.
Exactly. So you have to ask, am I like, is that even worth it? You know? And so anyway, it's a whole different conversation, but yeah, we're getting married and we don't even have a plant that we keep alive, like, let alone something actually real. But anyway,
well, you know what? There's something really, I mean, I do love owning a home, just because I've always been this way, Leah. Even when I would travel internationally, I wanted to go and stay. So I spent 6 weeks in Argentina. I spent a semester in France. I spent a year in Switzerland. I never really loved going somewhere for a week and then coming back.
I'm the exact same way.
Yeah.
It's like, I'd rather not go and go when I can go for a long amount of time.
Yes. I love that, because I love going to the places where they get to know you and this is the coffee drink you want, or, like, you like these kind of eggs. Like, that makes me feel connected. So I do love having a home, and there is something great to be said for having those fewer encumbrments. I mean, when Tim Ferriss came out with the whole 4-hour work week, just the idea that we can be mobile now, which is incredible. Like, I just spent 10 days in California, and one day it was kind of a mix of business and personal fun. But there was a day that I was at Pacific Edge, literally had a room looking out over the ocean, and I'm on a call with my speaking coach, and then I'm on a discovery call with a client, just looking at the ocean.
Yeah.
And pretty darn cool, because I've had some nice offices when I was in the law practice, but none of them compared to a bird's eye view of the Pacific Ocean.
Definitely not. I know that I think is one of the biggest still, like, pinch me parts of the path that I'm on now. And I know you're on the same, you and I have had somewhat parallel stories, and still to this day, I think that's one of the biggest moments where I'll just be like, oh my God, like, I am on my computer in Greece and I'm like working right now. I cannot believe this is happening, because it's one of those things that when you hear about when you're in a 9-to-5 job, it's almost too good to be true to even relate to, because it's so far from what you know. And, I even get butterflies just when I like go to a nice bar in New York and have a glass of wine and I can oversee the city on my laptop, because I love New York so much. And if you're not careful in this city, then your whole experience here is your over air conditioned cubicle, this crowded subway, and then your 500 square foot apartment. And so you're not really experiencing it at all. And so to me, even just to like not be in that pattern, which I feel unbelievably blessed to be in that situation, because I know that, probably like 75% of New Yorkers, if not more, are. And no, I would go crazy too. I wouldn't like the city if that's all I did too. So anyway, I know that's a bit of a tangent, but I think that it really is incredible to be mobile. And, I'm so impressed with the business you built. So actually, that's a good segue. Let's talk a little bit about that. I know that you started health coaching while you were still an attorney. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So when did you decide I'm going to explore something new?
Yeah. So 2015. And I started practicing in 2009. So in the fall of 2014, I hired my first business coach. And I had listened to the Dave Ramsey show religiously through law school, because I was going to make my $1,000 a month go as far as that possibly could. And Dave would have this guy, Dan Miller, on his show. And Dan Miller became one of my mentors. In fact, we were just emailing yesterday. He still listens to the podcast and gives me feedback and advice and coaching, just because that's the awesome kind of guy he is. But I heard Dan, and Dan wrote this book called 48 Days to the Work You Love. And I bought it at the bookstore with my cynical lawyer brain thinking, I'm going to disprove this. That is not possible. You cannot find work you love in 48 days.
That is so lawyerly. I am going to prove this positive message wrong.
And I bought the book, Leah, and I was reading it chapter by chapter and just seeing all these beautiful examples of people who were just ordinary people, and they had some kind of quirky skill or gift, and they made it into a business. And they were all these examples of six-figure businesses, which for me at the time, that was the mecca, like, oh, 6 figures. And I thought, wow, there's something to this. So I kind of put it on the shelf because I read it in 06, 07, somewhere around my first year of law school. And I got about 4 years into my practice, and I just saw, wow, my salary had gone down from where I started. I had that first great offer. And then when I took the job with the bigger firm, which was, again, a much better fit for me, but the pay was lower, significantly lower. And it was just, it was what was available to me at the time. But I thought, this is crazy. I'm not working any less hard. My pay is going down.
Yeah.
I can't imagine keeping this up for much, much longer. So I applied for coaching with Dan's company, and and I was thinking, Leah, that I would get coaching with them to figure out how to use my skills and package them up into a different job. I actually applied for career coaching, not business coaching.
Wow.
And I sat on the discovery call with the coach that Dan's team placed me with. And she heard my story of having overcome the anorexia and binge eating. And she said, you could do that. You could help people with their body image issues. And I thought, what?
Yeah.
It was such a novel idea. But I say that, but I had already had entrepreneurial ideas. When I was between jobs, I actually met with web developers because I had this idea for this site. It was kind of a collaborative site, but then I just didn't have the money to make it go forward. And at the time, I ended up using credit like nobody's business. But at the time, I had a lot of resistance to, especially in that situation where I didn't have my basic bills covered, which is something I always encourage my clients, like, have your basic bills covered.
Yeah.
And then, know that you have food, clothing, and shelter. And then, like, be okay with taking a risk.
Right.
Risk can yield great rewards. But anyhow, I had this discovery call with this coach, and she convinced me or opened my eyes to, hey, I could start my own business. So I really just went for it. I hired her. I had done my Dave Ramsey plan. I had my $1,000 baby emergency fund. Her deposit was $997. So I took my savings down to $3.
Wow.
And I negotiated a super extended payment plan because I wanted to cash flow it. So I was doing like $500 a month over 6 months, as opposed to her program was like $3,500 for 6 calls. Which is, again, we would never say that as a coach. It was for a 3-month program, but in my mind at the time, I was like, 6 calls. How much per call is that?
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah. And so we ended up actually working together for 6 months, and I didn't see the fruit, but all of the work that we did, they were all building blocks, because ultimately that health coaching career was out of alignment. I have a heart for women to accept themselves and love themselves and see themselves as God sees them. But I really always knew in my gut, like, that's not the work I want to do. I wanted to do the kind of work she was doing. But I
think you still do that work. You still work with women to help love themselves and see themselves as God sees them, but just not in terms of health.
Yes. Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, absolutely.
As you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, you do. It's exactly what you do.
Yeah. It was the health piece that was a bit of a disconnect, because there was just a lot. There was a lot wrapped up in it, and it's not that I wasn't still struggling in that area at that time, but it just wasn't where I feel that I really excel. I excel in helping women the way that I help them now. But there's just other people. Like, I remember when my business got really successful and I needed to give up my yoga class, which I was still teaching yoga as of like a year and a half ago. I was still teaching a class, $25 an hour. It would take up 2 hours by the time I got, and my coach was like, my business coach was like, are you a yoga teacher? And I was like, yes, I'm RYT 200. She's like, Anna, are you a yoga teacher? And I was like, no. She said, there's someone that feels about teaching yoga how you feel about running your business. And if you're going to hold on to that class, you're taking their spot. And that's kind of what the health coaching thing was. Like, there are people who feel about health coaching the way that I feel about business coaching and online marketing. Like, I'm just like, like, how many hours could I stay up and learn all this new stuff? Like, I love it that much.
Yeah.
I love what I do so much that I have to put limits on myself to stop working.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So it morphed over time, and it was actually, you and I have both worked with Emily Williams, and it was at a graduation ceremony of one of her programs where I realized, I can't be a health coach anymore. I have to really go for what I want to do. And it was the day before a $4,000 photo shoot that I had booked
about health.
For health coaching. And we had all our wardrobe picked out with these like flowy bohemian dresses that I would never, ever, ever wear in real life. Be a clue. Like, if you feel like you're playing dress up for your photo shoot, there's probably something wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like, every shoot I do, I'm like, I won't wear it in the shoot unless I would actually wear it in real life.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, like the last shoot I did with Wendy Yalom in New York, like, I bought every single thing that I wore. I was like, okay, cool, we're getting it all.
Yeah. That's good.
It's actually stuff that I would wear and use in my real life. So anyhow, did that answer your question? I feel like
no, absolutely. It's amazing here. I mean, there's so many nuggets there that I want to pull out for anyone listening. One, alignment is king, and it's so scary in the beginning. You know, I mean, I don't know. I actually want to be careful when I say that, because I want to be honest and say that in the beginning for me, there were clients that I took on that maybe I wouldn't now, because I was trying to get my business off the ground and I wanted, the experience. Was I doing it out of integrity? No, I knew I could help them and I was able to.
Yeah.
But there were, it probably wasn't so much of a perfect fit. It also isn't so much of my ideal client. It was like they needed help and I could help them, and I did that. I wouldn't say that that's so much out of alignment, because it was always within the bigger picture of what I was going toward. But other than that, I think that your advice is so critical, and the quicker you can be honest with yourself about when you're not in alignment, the more successful you'll be faster. And it can be scary, because sometimes you can be doing something that works, but it doesn't feel good, and it will not work in the end. Like, I can't say it enough, because I've experienced it and I've seen it over and over with people where they'll make money doing something, but then realize they don't really love it, but that's the only way they're making money. And so I think it's great that you are a living example of, I'm changing my $4,000 photo shoot. I'm not, going to do this because it's not really what I want to do anymore. I mean, and your whole story is just amazing. It sounds like you have followed your gut the whole time. And I know, and I love, I'm Catholic as well. I don't know if you're Catholic, but I know you're religious and Christian.
Yeah.
How you keep God as your compass. And I just feel so blessed to have grown up with that background. And I'm sure you feel the same way, because my favorite thing that you said on this interview so far is that faith and fear can't coexist. They just can't. And that can be a really tough realization when you feel terrified that you can't pay back your credit card, or you feel terrified that your launch is going to fail, or you feel terrified that you've gotten a mean message and what if they're right, and what if you need to go back, or you feel terrified that your parents don't approve of what you do, and should you be going to get a 9-to-5 job? Those are dark moments.
Mm-hmm.
But where there's dark, there's light.
Yeah.
And I feel grateful that we intuitively know that, because it can be a harder thing to learn during the time. So do you agree with that? And I guess, would you have any advice for someone who is wanting to be quicker about remembering that in the dark moments?
Yeah, I do definitely agree with that. And I love everything you just said. We should make a timestamp of that and put it in the show notes. Like, this is the nugget.
I can't do it.
And yes, my advice is, and it's spiritual. So if you're not spiritual listening to this, use this as checking in with yourself. But for me, it is like, if no one else had an opinion that mattered, and it was just me and God, and I'm just asking God, well, you created me. What do you think I should do here? And when I feel that gut hit, I call it Holy Spirit intuition. Like you said, the faster you can be honest with yourself, the quicker you can have success. Because I really do believe that every single one of us is put on this earth for a purpose, for a season, for a reason. That sounds super cheesy, but for a season and for a reason. And as long as we're still breathing, we clearly have not yet finished fulfilling our purpose. There's still something that we're meant to do, lives we're meant to touch. And just checking in with releasing everybody else's expectations. For example, you said like terrified you can't pay the credit card back. Whoever said you have to pay the credit card back the in full the whole month? And I'm not a financial advisor, but I used to like berate myself for carrying a balance. And then it's like, is that
and then 1 month you don't, and you're like, oh, everything is still fine.
Yeah, like, is that really like, I mean, I just think it's hilarious in America that we're totally okay with $500,000 mortgages. Like, that's totally fine. But like a $5,000 credit card bill means you're a bad person.
Right.
You know, I think that's laughable from a point of logic. It makes no sense. Right. And people will say, well, your house is an asset. We'll tell that to the people whose house value flipped upside down in the downturn.
Right.
Not an asset for them.
Right. And you're still living in it. It's not liquid cash. It's kind of an asset. Like, it contributes to your net worth. But at the end of the day, your business is something that will return money to you.
Yes. So ask yourself, well, aside from what everybody else feels about this, what do I feel about this? And if you hate credit card debt and that's like something that, you know, you hate personally, well, then don't have it. But if you're just feeling some way about something because all these other voices told you you should, I would encourage you to actually say, well, how do I feel about this? If I could block out all these other people's opinions, what do I feel about this? What is God telling me about this? And, you know, when I made the biggest investment decision I've ever made, I hired a one-on-one coach for $40,000, still the biggest. I make a lot of big decisions. I spend way more than that, or invest way more than that now in personal development, but I have 2 different masterminds that are both, you know, significant amounts of money. So it totals up to much more than that. But at the time, that was the biggest single investment I had ever made. That all the people around me would have said that was insane and stupid and very unwise. But I checked in with the Holy Spirit and I felt total peace that was an opportunity that was given to me by God.
Wow.
And that is, and literally I asked Jesus a question about how he felt about me making that decision. He gave me a very clear image, a flashback to memory, which basically the message was, you can't screw it up. Like, this is an opportunity for you. If you make the wrong choice, I will trade you the right choice. And so I went forward, and that was a turning point in my business. The work that I did in that relationship helped me set up the coaching side of my business, which at the time I was doing probably 80% to 90% done for you copywriting. Now my business is maybe 10% done for you copywriting. Everything else is coaching, teaching, mentoring. And that particular engagement helped me start to shift. And I feel much more in alignment with the shift, just working for a few super high level copy clients that I know, like, they have 7-figure launches, you know, we knock it out of the park. And I can really support them, as opposed, and then I teach the people who are newer through my messaging program, which makes much more sense. Because when you're starting out, I don't think you need to invest $7,500 in a copywriter. You need to learn how to write copy for yourself.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Amazing. So was that, I mean, even in that moment, you were able to act through faith and not fear, even when you spent $40,000?
It was totally a faith decision. It was, okay, God, I split up the payments. Well, because it was going to be 50 if I did it in installments. I thought, you know, I'm not going to do that.
I can't do that. Yeah.
Because my business was making enough. I probably could have cash flowed it with the installments. I definitely could have cash flowed it, but I thought an extra $10,000, that seems excessive.
Yeah.
So let me just put it, and I split it on like 3 or 4 different cards. I don't even remember how many, but within the first 3 months, I had made the $40,000 back. So,
Wow. So that must've been one of the best things that you've done for your business.
It really was.
Amazing. The one last thing I just want to touch on, because it is faith centered, and I know that you'll be able to share your wisdom with us on it, is that the common theme I see, especially lately, I don't know why, maybe I'm just like getting deeper with my clients lately or what, but the biggest underlying fear that I feel like is coming up is this fear of not being worthy from people about whether or not they're not worthy of selling, or they're not worthy of making as much money as they want, or they're not worthy. You know what I'm talking about. Like that seems what it all comes down to at the end. It can manifest in a lot of superficial, easy to package ways on the surface. Like, I just don't want to put myself on Instagram because I'll be salesy, and no one likes someone who's salesy.
Right.
And you know what I'm talking about. And the only real way I can understand inherent worth and move past that with myself, because to be clear, I've experienced that too. I'm not immune to this kind of thing, especially when you are, you and I had similar situations where businesses took off relatively quick. I mean, my income changed way faster in 2 years than it ever did, in the rest of my life. And so you really do have to do a lot of internal work to keep up with that. And the way I was able to do it was through faith and through thinking, you are a child of God. You are doing not him or anyone else any favors by telling yourself you're not deserving of something. And I'm wondering if you have any other tangible tips or thoughts or scriptures or references that you have helped you and or your clients find that worthiness piece, because it's so important.
Yeah. So, every day I start my day by meditating on a verse. And it is, let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way that I should go, for to you I lift up my soul. So that is how I start the day, is saying, okay, God, like, you have unfailing love for me. My day is yours. You show me where you want me. You show me who I'm supposed to talk to, how I'm supposed to show up. And from a worthiness perspective, if you really get down to the nitty gritty, if you believe what I believe, which is in Jesus as Savior, you were worth God's Son dying for. You don't think you're worth $3,000 freaking dollars? I mean, seriously, are we being for real here? You were worth the God who created everything, sacrificing his only child, so that he could be reconciled to relationship, so that you could be reconciled to relationship with him for eternity. I mean, that's
wow.
How could you ever question? Like, you could charge $1 million per year and it wouldn't even touch a tiny fraction of your worth. This is why when people say charge your worth, that does not resonate with me at all. Because, okay, you want me to charge infinity? I mean, how do you accept infinity in credit cards?
Right.
So again, when I look at pricing, I look at that as it's really the energy that you're allowing yourself to step into. So it's not about what you're worth at all. It's about what you believe. It's your mindset, and it's the value that you believe you're bringing to the table, because your pricing has to match your energy, because people will see straight through it if it doesn't. And that's the work that only you can do in partnership with God yourself, to be able to step into those new levels of pricing and income, and to build that lifestyle that many of your listeners, I'm sure, are looking to build.
What an amazing answer. Have you, and I could go on about this forever, but I guess, have you ever gotten resistance from people, from Christians, saying that, we should be happy with what we have, or like, there's a lot of praise in the Bible about poverty.
Yeah. What did you say? There's a lot of praise?
Actually, there's not, is the thing. There's not. Because I grew up Catholic, and like, there was a lot of praise within my community about poverty, but there's not in the Bible. That's where I don't get it from.
There's a lot of praise about generosity, and there's definitely mentions in the Bible about, people who are poor being generous, and how beautiful that is. The widow who gives her last mite. Yeah. And that's praised. Generosity is praised. But man, if you look at all the people who followed after God's own heart, who had extraordinary wealth, and I don't preach prosperity gospel, I don't know what God's plan in this fallen world is for every human being.
Yeah.
But right. I do believe that there are biblical principles that he has put in place for us to use that most believers don't use. There's a verse that says, if you say to the mountain, move, and you believe it will move, it will move. Well, nobody moves mountains, literally. because nobody has that kind of faith. But there's a story of a woman who had been bleeding for 13 years, and she touches Jesus's robe, and he feels power go out from him. And he says, "Who touched me?" And she admits it. And he says, "You go, by your faith, you're healed." She believed. She believed. And so she got what she desired. And I bet you there were a lot of other people who half believed, who grabbed onto him, who did not get healed. So when you come at it with full, this is what you've put. I always say, there's a verse that says, "Delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart." So if you desire it, it's not immoral, illegal, or unethical. It really is put there for you by God. And you can ask for that boldly.
Yeah. God, I could talk to you about this kind of stuff forever. And for those of you listening, if you love this, check out her podcast, Faith Forward Online Business. It's so refreshing, so applicable. She does an amazing job applying it to the stuff we do every day. So I'm like losing track of time because I literally could talk to you all day, but I just want to thank you so much for being on and sharing your wisdom with us and your story and your amazing spirit and faith and positivity. It is infectious and it's going to influence anyone who listens to this. So thank you, Sara Anna.
Thank you so much, Leah. It has been a delight to chat with you, and I'm so excited we touched on so much. And thank you again, and to all your amazing listeners. You are in great hands with Leah. She genuinely cares so much. You're definitely one of the people in this industry that I look up to and respect and value our friendship and relationship.
Me too, so much. And then just a little announcement for everyone. You are doing a live event in October, and also how can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So the live event is called Magnify Live. It's for people who want to magnify their results in business while magnifying God, October 2nd through 4th in Atlanta. And we actually have the ticket rates are stepping up as we get closer to the event. So you can go to saraannapowers.com/magnify live and see the current rates. And then to follow me, you can just check out the website, saraannapowers.com. I am more and more active on Instagram, so I love my Insta stories and I love the DMs. So that's at Sara Anna Powers, and no H on any of those Sarahs.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, visionaries, for listening. Me and Sara Anna are cheering for your biggest vision. We'll talk to you guys soon.